Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, and I am the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Here we hold conversations with some of the world's leading thinkers in longevity, science, technology, philosophy, and politics. Like the philosophers of the Age of Enlightenment, we aim to connect every field of human endeavor and arrive at new insights to achieve longer lives, greater rationality, and the progress of our civilization.
Aging is a natural process, but it's a process which helps our health and well-being. We are lucky to have longevity researchers developing rejuvenation therapies. Welcome to TransVision 2025.
Now let's move into a real investor. A real investor, I have known Angel Versetti and what he has been doing with his family office and also Doge.org. And he has a lot of things to say about how big this industry is, what will happen in terms of investment possibilities, venture capital, and where we are going to go with the longevity industry. So let's welcome Angel.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in the beautiful city of Madrid. So my presentation is titled Some Candid Raw Thoughts on the State of Longevity as an Investment. So it's thoughts, a lot of them, and through the prism of our experience as an investor, and they're candid, meaning that we want to be bullish, but then there are some challenges we need to acknowledge. So I decided to use the quote here from a Spanish writer and philosopher, Miguel de Unamuno, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, that explains my style, which is minimalistic. I think post-ChatGPT, there are far too many fanciful designs out there, so I try to focus on the content. And briefly about my journey, I'm a serial entrepreneur, having exited 4 different companies. 2 of them became unicorns in Web3 and AI domains. I also own Doge.org, which became the first online community for Dogecoin, which became one of the most famous cryptocurrencies in the world. So I host the forum where the first pictures of the dog were shared. And that would have been a joke, but that joke turned out to be a nearly $100 billion market cap thing, so that was a nice joke. And as of this year, we've decided to focus entirely on longevity in terms of our new ventures, although I have been in the community in various forms as an investor, grant-making organization, and an entrepreneur for about 5.5 years since the early days of COVID. So just a few clarifications. It's difficult for us to define what exactly we are because we're not really a VC. Here you have some what's scratched is what a typical VC is like, and what's written is what we have. So a venture capital fund will typically have money from limited partners as people who give money to the VC to invest. Therefore, their mandate tends to be fixed because when you promise someone to invest their money in a certain way, you kind of have to stick to your promise. A lot of VC funds have a particular timeline through which they have to return their money to the investors. That makes a lot of them short to medium term. And that is not a problem in many industries like software, but that is a problem for the space like longevity, which requires much longer time frames of investment. A lot of the funds that I have met, it's my opinion, I'm sure they will disagree, but I felt that they spray and pray, meaning that they invest into a bit of everything, but they don't have a particular conviction bets. And they tend to source a lot of deals externally. In our case, the capital is our own, therefore the mandate is flexible, we can afford to be long-term, and we are happy to support radical moonshots that move the needle, and we also have the venture builder approach, of which I will talk about later. So we're also not a typical family office, because family offices tend to be conservative and defensive. Their goal is to preserve their wealth rather than grow it. As a result, they tend to be diversified and passive allocators. In our case, we're entrepreneurial, we're happy to take risks, sometimes not too happy when the results are not that great, but that's what we're in for, I guess. We are focused on wealth growth for ourselves and for the industry generally. Therefore, we make concentrated bets whereby we have a lot of skin in the game and we push the companies to really focus on being operationally viable and commercially viable. And we are a hands-on operator, meaning that we like to be very actively involved with our investments. I would say around 90-95% of family offices do not operate this way. Therefore, I'm not even sure if the name family office is correct for us. And when I started just researching longevity, I read a bunch of books by some of the most famous people in longevity. And if I were to summarize them in 5 small bullet points, most of them just said, eat well, exercise, good sleep, no stress, no bad habits. And well, I'm like, okay, why do I need all these Harvard PhDs and Stanford professors and whatnot to really tell me what I knew since I was a kid, what my parents told me to do? Moreover, when I researched a bit deeper into the history of longevity, there was an ancient Chinese philosopher and physician, Gi Hong, who said, even if one performs breathing exercises and strength training, as well as ingests herbal medicines, this can only extend the years of your lifespan, but it will not save you from death. So that guy knew about it 2,000 years ago, and we're still kind of like just repeating the same stuff, and we're still struggling in the same way. Although, of course, my personal, response to that is that thankfully today we have so many technological advancements that hopefully we can move beyond pure wishful thinking. So, in general, my thesis is that longevity is hard. There are a number of reasons that we've identified through our research. Again, these are mostly opinions. I mean, there are many kind of anecdotal stories or specific backing them, but these are mostly my thoughts, so don't take them as facts. But it feels that the market is still immature and fragmented. People are still fighting about what the definition of longevity should be. I know it was a big subject of discussion at this year's ARDD in Copenhagen. And therefore, if you don't have even the universally accepted definition, of course, it's difficult for regulatory frameworks and standards to be developed. So they're either poorly developed or non-existent. The field is multidimensional and highly complex. And I would say there are 2 big chunks of participants when I look at it from the business perspective. On the one side, there are, I call them hypocrite hype riders. These are businesses that don't really care about longevity, but they use the word because it's an attractive investment term. And on the other side, I call them like fanatic dreamers. They religiously believe in longevity. They believe in the necessity to radically increase lifespan and so on. But they are just they're focused on it like a religion. And you need to find some golden mean, some middle ground. And then, of course, it's a no-brainer, but biology itself is hard. And I say that as a non-biology guy coming from a different background. And of course, that's there are many examples where it's not just easy to predict what's going to happen. So longevity startups are also hard. So when we extrapolate from that to startups in particular, that's what we're focused on. So a lot of them have, again, that's what our assessment is from our scientific and due diligence teams, but they frequently lack clinical depth. Clinical guidelines diverge from country to country, so that's difficult for them to be comparable to each other, of course. A lot of them have unsustainable margins in economics. We have observed a number of high-profile failures where when we tried to analyze what exactly did the team go wrong when the company went bankrupt, there was no particular reason. It was not like an obvious failure or a mistake, just the economics didn't work. There are cases of high-profile longevity clinics that failed. There are cases of companies that are biotech that failed and a number of others. So the graveyard of startups in longevity is huge. A lot of startups engage in misleading marketing, which leads to low consumer trust when they make some huge statements and they overpromise. That leads to the negative perception of the industry by the media and by some of the consumers. It's oftentimes hard to measure impact and outcomes, especially when you deal with human lifespan, which is obviously multi-decade long. So how can you meaningfully prove to people that it can work? Amongst a lot of users, there is poor retention and follow-through. So a lot of people, they typically are excited to start it out, to try it out, to do the procedures or take whatever supplements or some other, more advanced interventions. But they typically, there is very low follow-through. So it's almost a cliff when we identified a number of startups from their first client or first, intervention to the next one. And then generally within the market context, since a lot of longevity companies overlap with biotech, there is generally a biotech downturn, so it's at historical lows over the past couple of decades, so that leads to scarcity of capital. And on the next slide, I'm sharing a few quotes from a few people. I tried to make it semi-anonymous because some of these conversations were just private or a Chatham rule, but I found it to be interesting, and these conversations are all from the past 3-4 weeks, by the way. So both from a CEO of a public company who said we had to pretend to be a biotech company for our IPO and not talk about longevity or else the markets would freak out. Then I talked to a fund who also says we promise to our LPs to allocate to conservative pharma plays and just a little bit to longevity because otherwise we would struggle to raise money. Another startup company said we target disease X rather than aging to look more credible to investors. And lastly, a researcher said we pretend not to work on radical longevity because we want to continue receiving research grants. And they also said we don't want a random religious fanatic to come and shoot us. So these are all real quotes from pretty serious companies, people or funds I've met. So it's a lot about perception, how the investors perceive it. So we need to change the narrative and the perception amongst the investors. And then the last bit also, of course, talks about personal safety of some people who are working on more radical aspects of longevity. And I met quite a few people who prefer to stay in stealth, for example, because they are saying, I'm not sure, if somebody might come and try and shoot us. So these are definitely, so the previous conversation about the necessity of lobbying definitely is important, than just generally engaging media, the public opinion, and so on is equally important. So yeah, when I was interviewed after ARDD, so what's your conclusion from ARDD? I said, well, I guess we're all going to die. So there is a lot of, there is a lot of course, progress, but then at the same time, as at LBF, whom someone mentioned today, the Longevity Biotech Fellowship, in which I participated, their main argument is that as of today, there are zero credibly verifiable longevity interventions on the market. And it's important to be aware of that this is, we still have a lot of things to go. But, I was asked to be optimistic for this presentation. Therefore, let me say why I am here and not just given up and left. I think the market opportunity for longevity is definitely there. I was asked to prepare estimates of the market size and so on. I didn't want to give random numbers. I'm not a fan of that. So I couldn't find any credible estimates of the market, and not least because, well, when you have no definition for what kind of market you're talking about, it's hard to find an estimate. So I have seen various attempts to extrapolate to biotech space or therapeutics or pharma or healthcare. I definitely am not the best person to judge which of those is suitable. But importantly, there are hidden champions. Like from the previous quote I showed you, the company that is a publicly tradable company that has to pretend to be just we're a normal biotech or we're a normal pharma company. They are actually the hidden champions of longevity. And hopefully when it becomes more acceptable for the public and investors to support the notion of increasing lifespan and health span, they can be more open about it, and that can create a snowball effect. Secondly, I think there is just, generally speaking, an infinite market size, because who does not want to be healthier? If lifespan extension is, maybe there are more people who could argue about that. I don't think there's barely anyone in the world who would not want to be healthier generally. So the health span part of it is a no-brainer. The whole planet is your market. When it comes to living longer and so on, again, I'm a historian by background actually, so I just observed that from the historical perspective, from the times of pharaohs of ancient Egypt and the ancient kings and the emperors to the wealthy elites of today, a lot of them always sought immortality, they sought extension of lifespan and so on, is deeply embedded into almost all religions, philosophies, or folklore. The first written kind of story, the book, the novel Gilgamesh, that we have in the current, it's considered to be the first book written that has stayed until the modern times. It deals with questions of seeking, immortality. So therefore, that leads to a lot of, I want to believe investors, though the optimist investors, some of them come from fields such as crypto or AI, and there have been discussions that there are dreamers in a way, but it's important to have investors who are dreamers, who are not just conservative, careful people looking for basic things. And I also think that AI acceleration definitely brings hope for a lot of longevity challenges. So when people said these trials can take longer, simulating certain kind of research can take longer and so on, there is some degree of hope there, although I have also met a lot of people who say so many things in biology can't really be meaningfully accelerated using AI. And generally, I'm also generally looking at cycles in the markets. So when something is at the bottom, and biotech is said by everyone to be at the bottom, then that tends to rise. And investors are always looking for a good bubble. It's just people always want something that the narrative is there, and then it creates a snowball effect. And we are currently in the AI bubble, obviously, but maybe the next one will be a longevity bubble. So briefly about our approach. So we tackle this, so since I mentioned that we're neither a VC fund nor a proper family office, so we take the approach of a longevity venture builder. So our goal is to find these promising, very early stage startups or pre-startups that try and move the needle on lifespan or health span. We want them to be R&D and science driven, not marketing things. So it's, there are plenty of others who can support marketing plays, but we look for the, evidence-backed scientific projects and that are grounded in commercial reality. And therefore, we're looking for such collaborations. We're actively exploring them now with universities and with entrepreneurship groups. As mentioned, we are investorpreneurs, so we are both investors and entrepreneurs. We try and be the founding partner and help startups to really focus on their operations, scaling and business growth. That's something that most VCs that I talk with, given that they have 40, 50 companies in their portfolio, you can't meaningfully grow 40, 50 companies in parallel. Even doing 4 or 5 companies in parallel is extremely hard. And therefore, we want to focus on like a small group of superheroes. And we commit our own capital. And then I am working with a number of other family offices where I know that the principals or the family members themselves have a personal interest in this space. I like to remind the projects I work with about what investment actually means. A lot of them tend to just assume, okay, I'm doing longevity, it's good for humanity, and therefore you owe me money. I think that's the wrong approach, and I always try and say either, you should say you're a research organization, and that's fine, but if you're a startup, you should have a commercial model. You should be able to explain to your investors how you're going to bring money to them. I know it sounds like, why is this guy explaining this? But like so many companies I meet somehow just totally ignore that. And the questions that we ponder upon very often. So what niches of longevity are worth investing in? How to de-risk or discard a project with minimal losses? How to achieve both impact and profitability? It's important because we want to do both ideally. How to predict the future behavior of founders? That's a general startup question, not only for longevity. And then how to navigate the whole geopolitics and focus on progress. And in today's world, unfortunately, politics are messy, a lot of populism, and that leads to lack of scientific collaboration oftentimes, on top of a lot of stigmas that longevity itself still has today. So that is something we ponder upon, so that instead of saying it's not possible to reach the stars and live forever, we will add a yet that we can make it happen. Thank you.
Wow, Angel, that was a powerful presentation. Really fantastic. You covered most of everything we wanted to have in this session. We are very excited to have this panel to talk about public advocacy and what different people are doing in terms of advocacy. And each one will introduce themselves better than I can introduce them. So it is, I think, much better to hear from them what they're working on. We just had a little session to know what they're working on, and then we will have some questions and debate a little bit in the panel. Okay, so let's begin now that we have everybody sitting in their place, and each one has a different perspective on what they are doing and public advocacy for longevity, but they are all committed to longevity and biological rejuvenation. So let's begin with Carmen Simón Mateo. You have a microphone, you need to turn it green. Now it's red. Once it is green, you can talk, please. Thank you, and an applause to Carmen.
So good afternoon to everyone. First, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Carmen Simón. I'm a scientist. I work in the National Center for Biotechnology, which belongs to the highest public research institution in Spain, which is called Spanish National Research Council. And I do research. I'm a virologist. I work in plant virus, but I'm here because, as you have seen before, I found more than 10 years ago, I founded an association which is called Apadrina la Ciencia. Only with the name you already know something about it. And we put that name, Apadrina la Ciencia, because we do care about science and we do care about the investment in science. So Apadrina la Ciencia is a place that has different parts of interest, and along the journey, maybe I can explain you later what do we do. But the main idea is that we want society and also the governments understand that investment in science is very, very important, because finally all the results we got with our research, with our investigation, finally impact in society, of course. We are here in this meeting about longevity, so only we can increase longevity and also the well-being of people by doing research. So the investment has to be there. But also we want to really diffuse in the society the results we got in our investigation. And also, and not less important, is that we are very worried because our kids and our young people don't want to be scientists. And this is really very, very tough to know. And we want to promote the vocation of these people to be interested in doing science. So that's more or less the main ideas I wanted to share with you in the beginning of my talk.
Thank you very much, Carmen. So now let's go in a different perspective, and Sergio will give us a few ideas of what he's doing to advance longevity. Sergio.
Okay, yeah, I think it's best that we introduce ourselves briefly first and then talk a little longer because we have a lot of time. So my name is Sergio Tarrero. I've been in the community, in the longevity community for about 22 years. I met Jose recording a conference like this in Helsinki in 2006, so that's 19 years ago. And I've covered many conferences. I really like documenting these events. I think they're historical and worth preserving. And I've got involved with the community too to help make the ideas reach wider audiences. It's still kind of unfortunate that it's not more widespread, like Aubrey said in his remarks. And my main contribution, I think, to the community was founding the first Transhumanist political party in the world, Alianza Futurista Alpha, in now 12 years ago, almost to the date. It's the 7th of October, that's our anniversary. And exactly a year later, the Transhumanist Party US was founded, which was just chance. But and we've basically brought this movement to existence, having a political movement around transhumanism, both the Alianza Futurista here in Spain and the Transhumanist parties, which were founded first in the US and then another one in England, I believe. I don't know if that's still going. But yeah, I will advocate for much more public investment on longevity science, obviously, which we also do our march to push for. But I will talk a little more about the party in a few minutes. I'll let the next person.
Beautiful, thank you. Actually, we heard first a biologist, second a physicist by training, and now we have Clara. Tell us about you.
My experience is in innovation in healthcare. Hello everyone, I'm Clara Fernández. I am the longevity clinic in Valencia that Angel was talking about, because last week Angel, Dylan, Aubrey, Natalie, Inez, a lot of the scientists and longevity biotech community were in my clinic. I hosted the Longevity Biotech Fellowship. My clinic is in Valencia, and I'm going to be talking about how the unique ecosystem and the unique model that we have built, and what is our perspective on how to democratize the access of longevity to society. Just as a little bit of an introduction, we are quite a big clinic. We have an average of 600 patients per day that stay with us for 10 days, which has enabled us to create a unique model of delivering longevity treatments at a very efficient scale. One of the key elements that I'm going to also be talking about is the importance of collaboration between longevity clinics and the clinical scientific community. As most of the vanguard treatments are happening in longevity clinics, we need to make sure that those data are analyzed and are translated to science, so we can keep supporting what's happening and publish it in scientific papers.
Thank you so much, Clara. So let's hear from Carlos, that also travels all the time, and he's doing many things, not just in Spain, but all over Latin America.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much, Jose Luis. It's always a pleasure. Apart also from that, I'm very honored I'm amazed by the number of people that have been here over the last few days. I'm also very thankful to my peers in this panel because I've been hearing from them a few minutes ago. I'm very impressed. So my name is Carlos Díez-Ruza. I've been in this sector for 39 years. I basically do a couple of things. I am a for-profit investor, so I'm invested in more than 850 projects all over the place, as you said. This is for-profit, but non-for-profit, which is my most enthusiastic piece of the cake. I'm also an investor in developing what I have denominated digital health cities. And you would be guessing or thinking, what is that about? Well, this is my interpretation. It's only our interpretation of what we mean by that, but basically we create spaces. So we have in Madrid, we launched in Madrid on the 5th of June, the first digital city worldwide. We have two campuses. Campus 1 is Las Mercedes, 80,000 square meters, and Campus 2 is San Fernando, more than 100,000 square meters. And what do we do there? Let me first very quickly remind everyone that this is the only sector in which the consumer, which is called patient, is not a decision maker. Let's keep this in mind. So I want to buy an iPhone, I go to the shop and I buy my iPhone. I'm the decision maker, I'm the payer, I'm the user. But in this market, I am the patient, but remember, there is a doctor who prescribes, there is someone called pharmacist who dispenses, and then there is someone called insurer or government who pays for this party, especially when we are talking about prescription. And then I'm the patient, I'm using this medicament. So 5, 6, 7 stakeholders for one fact. So what we do in these cities is interesting. First, we put together public and private. This is vital, this is critical. This is the neurological bit of everything we do. And once we put together public and private sectors, we put together a chemist with a doctor, with an association, with a foundation, with a laboratory, with a distributor, and we make things happen in those cities. So our advocacy, as we were meant to say as part of this panel, is I'm not an expert as my peers in longevity, I must admit. Actually, I was a very, very bad student, if I recall. But what we do is different. We try and do something which is, in our view, necessary, which is melting together from the entrepreneurship side of things, all of these people who are enthusiastic and are part of this ecosystem into one discussion. So we integrate, I would say we are integrators, and that's how I would put it. And then over the next few minutes, we will be talking more about some of the details. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Carlos. And now let's hear from Mariana, that I have the pleasure to know her for over 10 years, since the beginning of RAD Fest, which is the biggest global event on longevity, revolution against aging and death. So, Mariana.
Gracias, Jose. Wow. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having this space. Thank you for bringing all these people together. So I will be talking to you about two different arms, two different organizations, a not-for-profit and a not-profit. And the first one is what you just mentioned, which is what brought us together and how we met and how I've met a lot of you and a lot of the people that have spoken this weekend. It's the Coalition for Radical Life Extension. It's been a not-for-profit created about 11 years ago. And then its main mission was to bring together and bridge the gap between scientists and non-scientists. So yesterday, Dr. Mehmet Khan and then several of the speakers since then have spoken about how important and vital it is to bring non-scientists together with scientists. And that's what RADFest has been very successful at. We've created and launched and helped and aid a lot of collaboration between scientists and also bring their science into the forefront for the people that are actually the consumers, the people like us, the people that are sitting here who want these technologies, that they need to know that these are happening, and also people doing the public advocacy, like I have some people here, and Dylan also as well. And then the People Unlimited is it's a profit organization, and that is been the longest standing, most active, and most successful community for individuals who are interested in super longevity. And what they do and what we've done, and I've been a member for 18 years, it's to bring people that are mostly non-scientists, but bring them together and to create spaces of education and inspiration. And really, it's been transforming for all of its members and all the speakers. Actually, Liz Parrish gave her first presentation right after she got her gene therapy done, first at People Unlimited, because she was recommended to it. She knew, and they knew, that it was going to be the best and most supportive platform for her to get started on this path. So again, I'll just be talking about how important it is to bring us all together. I do really feel that community and people are the scaffolding of longevity and super longevity medicine, and the reason why we're doing this. And so what is it that brought us all together? There's a little spark that sparked in all of us that got us interested enough in longevity beyond the health system that we know of. And so that spark and what these organizations are doing, it's really throwing fire at that, throwing logs at that fire and making sure that they don't extinguish themselves, that everybody gets seen and supported, and that there's this African proverb that I really like that it says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today.
Fantastic. And I forgot to say that Mariana was also born in my native country, in Venezuela, and she's doing incredible work. And next year, we are going to have the Walk for Longevity, the March for Longevity in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Just like we had yesterday in Madrid, but big.
Very big, because numbers matter and visibility matters, and having, what you had yesterday, a full room of people here, makes such a big difference rather than just having a few people. So imagine having hundreds of people marching in DC, advocating for longevity rights, and like how we've heard from different people, the option to be able to opt into some of these treatments and protocols we've been talking about and learning about. So that is something that we're working on, and we'll know in a couple of months if it's a go, but we'll make sure that everybody knows. But we're very excited about it.
So now you all have to come and join us in Washington, D.C. for the March for Longevity in the capital of the USA, and some people say the capital of the world. Anyway, let's finish with my dear friend Cody Dean, who is the global ambassador of a new fantastic initiative called Immortalis, and he's from Florida, which is a beautiful state, sunny Florida. Cody.
Yes. Thank you, Jose. Yes, Florida is very beautiful, and I look forward to being at that march in Washington, D.C. next year. Hope to see many of you there. So I work with Immortalis, which is a global initiative. We're very focused right now in the United States and a South American country, both of which we're calling it a Neovia to be a little bit more agreeable to a more conservative crowd. But what we're trying to do is advocate for many of you who does have more of that scientific background, because me, I don't have a scientific background, but what I do have is a drive to live healthy much, much longer than is currently possible. So I have been at events like RadFest supporting you for a long, long time. And when I finally connected with the founder of Immortalis, Mark Hamilton, who's over here, I knew I had to jump on board with that, because what we are doing to help you, help us live it's incredible. What we're trying to do is unlock the funding that so many of you desperately need. And part of the way we're doing that is by accelerating some of the regulatory pathways that are slowing things down. So when that happens, investors will begin to see a better return on their investment, both in profit margin and in timeline. And so you'll see an influx of investment opportunity into you and into what you're doing when we successfully unlock a zone. And you'd be surprised how close we are, even within the United States, which has been historically tough to get into. So, stay tuned for what's happening there. Could potentially be, the end of the year, early into next year. Politics is a very interesting landscape, so we'll see. But once that is unlocked and, you're able to come in and do what you do much, much faster and with more funding behind you and still cheaper, you're going to be able to save our lives faster, which is selfishly what I want. So that's us.
Fantastic, Cody. And now I want to go into a second round to see what they are doing, and their background is related to public advocacy, because part of the International Longevity Summit is to have an impact on people. And you have seen we have had 2 documentaries. We have been in all the media in Spain, some attacking us, by the way. They cannot understand that we believe that this is science and technology, that we are going to be able to live longer, healthier, better. So I don't understand how some people can attack this beautiful idea. But anyway, we are in all media, so this is fantastic. All TVs, radios, newspapers. We had the mayor of Madrid. I mean, we cannot go much higher, who is a very important person. And we had the March for Longevity. We had a lot of things going on, and we have fantastic speakers in all sessions, including this beautiful panel. So how can we move the movement forward?
How can we impact? So this is the main idea that appears when Apadrina la Ciencia was born. So Inés Antón, which is the vice president, myself, and some other scientists, we wanted really to have an impact, not only with our research, but also to tell the society how important is science. So if you pay attention to the richest countries and the best countries in the world, are those which have invested a lot of money in science. And because of these results that appear, finally they have an impact. And finally the society can really feel the impact of this research. Something important that I would like to mention is the importance of do research, do investigation in every areas of knowledge. So the challenges we have in front of us in this century and in the next centuries are really important and they're very big. And only through the collaboration and the interdisciplinarity of all areas of knowledge, we can give an answer to this, to solve these problems. So this is also something that we really focus on when we are working in Apadrina la Ciencia. And this makes also very singular our association. So you maybe see another different foundations, many different associations that pay attention to one specific subject. In Apadrina la Ciencia, we pay attention to all areas of knowledge, and this is something singular and also a strength. Another singular part of Apadrina la Ciencia and one of our strengths is that it is led and directed by scientists. So we are used to manage our group, research groups, and also we manage the we get funding from many different funding agencies, not only national but also international, and we know really which are the problems, and we know very well how with very little amount of money to have an impact in our research. That's why all the funding we got, we made open calls, and they have all the projects we receive, all the proposals are evaluated by scientists. That's why the impact is much higher. So this is something that I will want to share you, because if you put money in if you make a donation to Apadrina la Ciencia, you can be sure that all this money are going to be optimized. It's not a waste of money, but an investment in science, an investment to get results, and finally an investment to get an impact in the society.
Thank you. So, Sergio.
So I prepared these graphics as I've been doing for these conferences for the last few years. My name is, as I said, Sergio Tarrero, and I'm producing all these videos and the streaming, partly as a donation of Alianza Futurista. I'll let you know that we're changing the logo. It's the political party I discussed, and inspired on this stages of life picture. We just took, the part after aging, because otherwise it would be too big as a logo, but I'll leave that there for now. And yes, I've covered just as part of this 2008 TransVision, 2021, 22, 24, 25 now. My friendship with Jose and David Wood and many others go back over 20 years when I started documenting events like the Foresight Institute's conferences, then TransVision 2006 in Helsinki, 2007 in Chicago with Charlie Kam, I don't know if he's still here, and many other such events. When I was growing up, I was very concerned about the Cold War in the 80s. This movie, War Games, really touched me. And I thought very good movies about important subjects could really change the world and educate people, and everybody gets to hear about ideas to the end of the world. Everybody knows Rocky Balboa and the Terminator, and you can really reach out with the film medium. So when I was growing up, I thought it was easier to influence the world through movies than doing politics. I never thought about going into politics until much, much later. Many years later, in 2002 or so, I was studying how to best incorporate the idea of memetic evolution into a script. I inadvertently discovered transhumanism and the prospect for molecular nanotechnology, artificial superintelligence, changing the world drastically in a matter of a few short decades. I decided to get involved and to get informed and to see what I could do to help this movement to get us there quicker but safer. I realized that the issues regarding these ultra technologies like molecular nanotechnology and superintelligence were so grave and so urgent, while at the same time so promising and liberating, that I should focus more on how I could influence their positive development while avoiding the worst risks. Ever since, I have recorded all these conferences as part of my effort to help grow the movement, to promote the ideas, and make the videos look good, hopefully, or better every year, and just to document them for the record. After 2010 or so, my thoughts about supermoral AIs made me give a lot of thought to the way we treat animals, and I got interested in animal ethics just to make friends and stuff and to learn about it. I volunteered for an animal rights political party, PACMA, Partido Animalista PACMA here in Spain for about a year. Then I realized that something was missing in this party and basically in every other political party, which is a strong transhumanist component. I'd witnessed political debates within the movement for about a decade. They're very interesting and enlightening and edifying, but there wasn't anything being done. So I decided to start the first political party with a few friends here in Spain. Founding it was easy. Then we had to develop the ideas further, and it took time. It took years to really develop our declaration of principles from a small document into what it is today. And we continued recording videos and conferences, starting in 2014 with an AI conference in Santander where Cordero organized as well, and just continued cryonics conferences and this and that, just many things. We had an unfortunate passing in the party. Javier Ruiz passed, and we managed to honor his will of getting him cryonically preserved. But yeah, the party kind of revived and got new people in. And we also have, like I said, a strong animal ethics component and other dimensions of political discussion that go beyond life extension. We're also extremely concerned with big global catastrophic risks, existential risks that certain technologies could bring about. And so our declaration of principles grew. Let me see if I have just an image of it. You should take a look at the document yourself. Yeah, it grew from something small to something that's something like 25 pages long today. And we're pretty proud of it, and we grow it every few months. We have a new update. The last one is just a few days old, so feel free to take a look. Yeah, and I would like to read briefly Cody Dean's remarks in a recent email from the Transhumanist Party in the US. He wrote this short text. It's nice, so I'll just read it for you. Alianza Futurista and the US Transhumanist Party are the true oldest transhumanist political parties in the world. We have endured because we are guided by long-term goals and enduring vision of how transhumanist pursuits can transform the human condition for the better, rather than focusing narrowly on winning elections or beating other political parties. Ultimately, transhumanism is a global movement that needs to unite humans in our shared aspiration to overcome old age limits of mortality, disease, material scarcity, and irrationality. Therefore, political success of transhumanists anywhere in the world is a success for transhumanists everywhere in the world. Any jurisdiction where transhumanism succeeds in influencing government policy in a direction that is more open to technological advancement will be a jurisdiction where research breakthroughs could occur to benefit humanity. The USTP considers Alianza Futurista to be its key ally in Spain, and we are eager to see what its efforts can accomplish to enable Spain to become one of the foremost pro-longevity countries of our time. Alianza Futurista is welcome. This has to do with our suggestion that we would sign their values document. And in our declarations, they have the Transhumanist Party values and the Transhumanist Bill of Rights. And so we already passed it in our party. We're going to sign this declaration, and we'll add it to this part of the website in the next few days. It's an announcement I'm making as more of an interconnection between our two parties, because we should really strongly support each other. And yeah, if you now just briefly, I would like you all and everyone you know to help these parties, to help Alianza Futurista if you can, to get involved, to get to know us. And there's memberships, you can make donations, there's a pretty high limit in Spain for donations, so if anyone has money, it can help us grow much faster. And especially human force, human members, especially within Spain. So I know some of you are Spanish, or people in Spain are watching through the subtitles, etc. So we need people to head the different areas of the party. If you're especially an expert on any of the fields we talk about, come to us so you can head one of the departments or something like that. And yeah, that's basically it. I don't know if I have any more slides. We were showing the Bill of Rights and all of these things briefly, but yeah, there's a code if you want to reach the website quicker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergio, for all you are doing. And now we want to bring back the beautiful, the intelligent, the expert on all of this, Sabinilla.
Thank you. So, are you all energized?
Yes!
Yes? Well, we have a little energy left. We're going to have a few more speakers. Look at this eminent speaker panel sitting here. It's amazing. I want to start off by introducing our next speaker, who really has many engagements in longevity. Two of them are as CEO of Balnerno, the largest longevity clinic in Europe that can host up to 15,000 patients, and also CEO of Progevita, I hope I pronounce that, a longevity retreat that then is more geared towards business people and C-suites. And she's also the co-founder of RX Longevity, a longevity coach app. So she is truly, truly well-versed in the longevity space. Please give it up for Clara Fernández Porta.
Hi, everyone. So when Jose asked me to talk about public advocacy and how our clinic or our model was working to help push the longevity science, I was very happy to be here and be able to share you how I have actually designed the clinic to make sure that we could become a tool for society, for both patients and scientists, to push up longevity as much as possible. So I have some slides. So just before you understand, and I have a short presentation, but just before I start on telling you a little bit more about my clinic, I want to give you some context. So we are in Valencia, in the middle of the forest. We have over 2 million square meters in the middle of the forest, over 80 different buildings. It is traditionally a historical thermal clinic, which in Europe is very popular, so it was originally created to create natural medicine treatments. But over the last 30 years, the company has evolved in the area of healthy aging and health and longevity. So the company is actually founded by, it's a family company, so it's founded by my father, who is here, a doctor. And as a family company, we have been able to decide and create the strategy that we thought would have the biggest impact in society. We were initially focused on people from 60 to 70 years, because we believe that's in the longevity clinic ecosystem, we believe that is the unique segment that has time and willingness to dedicate themselves to longevity treatments. And so that has enabled us to create a model where patients come every day. We have an average of 60 patients coming every day for 10 days, staying with us, with 600 patients, as I mentioned, staying with us together. And we have been able to create a framework of treatments that have been able to democratize longevity treatments. So anyway, what I was going to tell you is how we actually have created this ecosystem, because I think it's very unique and very different to most of the other longevity clinics, and that has been the core element that has given us the unique advantage to both scale. Oh, super, great. So here you can have my information, also my website. So first of all, the most important thing that is different, okay, I told you. So we have an average of 160,000 patients per year, daily patients. That makes us in the biggest hotel in the province of Valencia, which is a very touristic hotel. But what actually has the scale and number of patients has given us is the possibility to create accessible treatments. And why is this? Most of the traditional longevity clinics that you know have a smaller scale, and that makes that most of the cost of the treatments are not necessarily uniquely the cost of medicine per se, but the cost of the setup. So being big is for us a fundamental part of being able to have a big medical team, a big scientific team, and make sure that we can deliver treatments at the unique marginal cost. We, in terms of treatments, so just so that you know, we're strong on regenerative medicine and anti-inflammation protocols, and patients can either come to one of our set protocols that is a combination of stem cell treatments, orthomolecular medicines, plasmapheresis, ozone therapy, or they can come to one of our personalized protocols. All of our treatments do a combination of diagnostics, treatments, and education. And this is also a very important part that I want to make point on, especially as we're speaking about public advocacy. Every patient that comes to our clinic has an average of 20 hours of longevity master classes. We are making sure that everyone that comes to our space understands the biology of aging. Not only what's available today, we don't do this education or scientific master classes to get them more treatments. For us, it is fundamental that people understand the biology of their aging process and what is to come in the next years, because we believe that is the unique way that they're gonna spread the word and that they are going to have an interest in taking care of their health. Yesterday with Ray Kurzweil, he told us in the presentation that he believes that in just 7 years, we might reach the longevity velocity of escape. Well, that's fundamental that we teach society, because people are not gonna take longevity treatments or their health strategy in the same way if they believe we are very far from having any impactful results in their lives, or whether they think that it's actually relatively close. So economies of scale enables us to have not only great treatments delivered to the patient, but also to do very specific master classes and make sure that we invest in creating the education and the culture that we need the patients to demand. Finally, because we have a lot of patients, we have a lot of data. So it's been almost, I think, 8 years that we decided that one of the biggest roles that we could have in the longevity ecosystem was to become a platform for scientists, for universities, and for companies, so that they could actually research with our patient data, iterate their protocols with our patients, and finally be able to test the final results. The Human Lab is a space where we do clinical trials, but it's also a place where we gather data for patients that we open for the science community. Just so you get a little bit of a scale this year, we have had 2.5 million euros in grants from government, from Spain, and from Europe in protocols that we have designed ourselves. We expect next year to have more than 3 million and to double the number of PhD students that are using our data to publish scientific research. Also, we have created a model that it's a digital biobank by which patients can actually leave their data accessible for science, The data is going to be sold to different startups or companies, and that money is going to be used as a unique wallet for the patient that they can reinvest in their longevity treatments for next year. I didn't mention this, but most of our patients come every year. The protocols that we design are designed to be a pit stop, an annual pit stop. So they come every year, get checked up again, get boosted with their motivation, their classes, what's happening in the biology of aging, make sure that they're on the right track, redesign their plan, and go back home. So, and finally, a human lab is not just great because we can push science, but because having access to clinical trials enables us to deliver unique treatments under the umbrella of clinical trials. So being in contact with the scientific community is not just great to push the science, but it also is the unique way to help us be on the vanguard of what's happening in longevity. So this is an ecosystem because it actually feeds himself. Being able to have more clinical trials and unique clients, it's actually what gives us the more patient base and more people that are willing to come year after year, which gives us more economies of scale and more data. So this was basically the model I wanted to share, and I think it's very relevant because most of the longevity clinics are not articulated in a way in which they're interrelated to the scientific community, not just the science that they're pushing themselves, but the general scientific community, and I think this is a very important message to be spread. More of us could be making more treatments more democratized and having a bigger impact in society.
Thank you, Clara. Really interesting to see as an ecosystem thinker. I mean, I found it very interesting.
And our next speaker is CEO for Digital for Health Worldwide and President of Mad eHealth, a flagship initiated and backed by Madrid City Council. And his lifelong mission is to really re-architect healthcare around the patient, so be patient-centric, fusing public and private integration, open innovation, and also AI into everyday care and digital health. And with that, I'd like to hand the word over to Carlos Díez-Ruza.
Thank you so much. I have shared something very important with you guys a few minutes ago. You remember when I told you I was a very bad student? Rings a bell? I was a horrible student, actually. I lied to you. I was horrible, not bad. But I was doing something. You know what I was doing very well? Just one thing. Can you think of what I was doing? Just one thing. Dreaming. One thing and trying to do it well. So I spent hours, if you think of university, long hours, long studies. So I spent long hours, as all of you did probably, dreaming. And today I'm going to share with you, hopefully, one of my last dreams. I've had a lot of nightmares, by the way, also. But this is one of my last dreams that I have shared with you before. So this video is a very simple example of what I dreamt 8 years ago. When as I said before, we were trying to put together public and private sectors, because we all think that healthcare doesn't have to be public or private. It has to be good. And as far as I know, the only possible way for us to deliver a very good healthcare system is by unifying, putting together both sectors, public and private. Let me, before we see the video, just share this very little piece of thought. So, you know, healthcare systems, so public is probably 70% of the total in volumes, in values, but we need a private, and private needs public. Are we ready? So let's go for it. Well, there is no noise. Yes, there is. Thank you so much. So this is, as I said before, our last but not least dream. We keep dreaming. This is the first digital city in the world. We have 2 campuses. 8,000 square meters is the first one. More than 100 square meters for the second one. We have invested more than 600 million euros, which is a lot of money. We are welcoming, and I am in discussions with the owner of this event, with Mr. Cordeiro, because I would really love to keep dreaming, and I dare you, all of you, to keep dreaming. I would like to make this city the center of the European longevity world. We should think of it. Nothing stops us from thinking and from dreaming. So this is our contribution. You were asking before, Jose Luis, what is our contribution to this longevity? I am not a doctor. I was a horrible student, as I told you many times. But we think that putting together private and public is fundamental. Dreaming is fundamental. Integrating all stakeholders is fundamental. As I said before, we are not in healthcare only one, there is no one decision maker. We have many in this sector. By bringing them together and making them work together, we can improve. This is our contribution to longevity. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Head of Outreach and Marketing at the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, a non-for-profit providing education and resources and community for longevity. So please give it up for Mariana De Chellis.
Thank you. I don't have slides, but I do want to address your question, Jose, after we introduce ourselves, what can we do to advocate for ourselves, or what can we do? Do you want to set that question, Jose? Because I'd really want to answer it.
Well, I'd like to say, Viva la Revolución!
Okay, so I do want to answer that question that you gave us because, so yeah, I told you about the Coalition for Radical Life Extension. We spoke about RADFest, the Rally for Longevity Rights. The coalition has launched this year its global initiative. And this global initiative, it wants to take RADFest and beyond and really create a platform for and just bring advocacy and bridge the gap between policy and people and bring in the funding for actually age reversal, not just extending human lifespan. And then let's keep it personal here because we're all people who here, whether you feel longevity or immortality for yourself, you feel something more. And so I want to ask you, which one of you feels like you have an advocate or are advocating for yourself on a daily basis? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. So doesn't that make you feel a little like, I don't have anybody advocating for me today? Am I advocating for myself today? And so what I'm doing with the coalition and with People Unlimited, which I feel so proud of, is that we've really brought together people. Like Jose has done that here. We've done that in this panel, how you've done that, Clara, with the clinic, and Sergio, and how you've done it also, and Cody as well, and all of our panel here. It's really bring people together to remind ourselves and support each other in really our pursuit for this more health. And so what is its longevity if you're not going there with anybody, right? And what do we do when we don't feel as supportive, we feel sad, or we get bad biomarkers? Who do you tell? And what do you do after the event over here tonight? And so, because you feel this boost, you feel excited, you feel seen. I've seen from 10 years of working with Radfest and almost 20 with People Unlimited, I've seen researchers and scientists come into the room feeling sad because they've been unfunded. They don't feel seen because the research feels too out there. And then they come into rooms like this and meet people like you, and then they feel seen. They find somebody that will find them because maybe I know somebody else, but that only happens when we get together. And so really we've heard about all of the tools that we talked about, how Aubrey said, let's throw all the tools together, and I really quite agree with that. And what are those tools if we're not, what are we doing with these tools? And I really feel that community and spirituality really make sense of those tools, because then any other than that, they're just tools. And so I feel that community really puts together not only the purpose, but what we're doing with that sense. What can we do? I don't know. I think we all have an answer to what we can do for longevity. I think we all have very valid answers. I think Omniscope has a very beautiful answer. I think Clara has very beautiful answers. David Wood presented a beautiful answers. I think we all have very valuable answers to what we can do to advocate for super longevity, age reversal, and immortality. But I can tell you what you can do for me with us so that we can help you. I think you need to show up like you have here. We need to show up to events like this. We need to show up to Radfest. We need to show up online. We need to show up in person. People Unlimited meets twice a week. I've been meeting twice a week for 18 years with people like you that want this. And we meet online or in person. We have people that have joined us from all over the world, in Africa and Asia and all over. And these are all people like you who are very passionate and really want to see this come through. And so I really invite you to show up, to come and join me. So for People Unlimited, that website's peopleunlimitedinc.com. For Radfest, that's radfest.com. For the global initiative and what we're doing with the coalition, that's rlecoalition.com. And if you have any questions, you can come and ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. I think that was a perfect way to sort of show that we need a humane aspect when we also talk about longevity, and especially when we talk about advocacy, because each and one of us are an advocate for our own health. There is a sense of sovereignty needed, and this can then have ripple effects. And I think community and role models are key, because we're talking about health. I mean, we've been talking about that since the Stone Age, because we all want to live healthy. But I think we need to have a common vision. Why do we want to live a long, healthy life? Well, presumably not in the way the world looks today. So there's so many factors, and I think community is a really important one. Infrastructure is another one. But let's hear more from our last speaker, Cody Dean, who is an entrepreneur and public voice in immortality and longevity culture, especially as content creator for the Immortalists. So please give it up for Cody.
Thank you. I also did not come prepared with slides, so I apologize for those of you who are visual. You're going to have to just power through and listen here. I want to address the question that Jose posed earlier before we started these presentations of how do we move this movement forward? And if you really boil it down, there's a challenge of supply and demand, which seems simple enough, but how do we break that down a little bit more? There's a few aspects to this. There's the problem of science, which many of you are working on. So, there's that, but why has it not achieved a cure to aging in most of these age-related diseases yet? Is it just because the science isn't there? That's a questionable thing, but if we look a little bit further back, there's a challenge of funding, which many of you have addressed and asked about and talked about. And there's also a challenge of potentially outdated policy and politics at play here. But if you take another step back, you can see there's an element of, and this is where the demand comes in. It's people who want it. We see this crowd here, and there's a decent number of people watching live and virtually around the world, and up to hundreds of people who show up to Radfest and Aubrey's event in Dublin. There is a community for this. but the demand is not to a level where the voice is heard loud enough to affect change on a political and policy level. And if that were to happen, if enough people were to advocate, and this is where the public advocacy comes in, we all need to be louder, we all need to talk to more people. And in doing so, that voice becomes more unified. I've given an analogy before of a symphony. How many people have seen a symphony before, or at least know what that is? So you probably at least know what a symphony is. When you go to a concert, and if you haven't been, just imagine, you walk into the auditorium similar to this, and down in this area is a large orchestra with lots of different instruments. And when you get there early enough, you see them all warming up. The conductor is off the stage, and everyone's warming up their instruments, getting tuned. And if you look down and you pay attention to the flutes, you can kind of hear what the flutes are doing. Their scales, it's very high-pitched, very airy. And then there's also a cacophony of sound that's secondary behind that because you're focused on the flute section. But then you shift your attention over to the French horns or the trumpets or whichever other instrument, and now that's what you hear. You hear them doing their scales, and you hear the tone and the timbre of that instrument. And then, again, just a cacophony of sound that the flutes have now blended into. And when you don't focus on any instrument, it's just a cacophony of sound. You don't really hear any particular thing. But when the director comes back out and stands at the front and brings his hands up, the entire orchestra comes to attention. And when the director moves his hands and the song starts, now all of a sudden you hear a unified piece of music, and it's beautiful. And that's how we need to imagine this community and this movement. We need to come together and unify that voice so that way it is heard as one song, and that will be beautiful. And it will be heard by the audience, the policymakers, the regulators, the governments around the world. And when it's heard, they understand that we as a community, as a people, not just a longevity community, but a human community, we are the voter base. So they're going to listen to us if they want to keep their jobs. So when that happens, policy can be adjusted and streamlined in order to maintain safety and efficacy, which we absolutely need. Nobody wants fraudsters coming into this space, selling snake oil and killing a bunch of people because they want to make a bunch of money on longevity. We definitely need a standard of safety and efficacy. But we can streamline regulation so that way we're not holding back beneficial therapies for 10 to 15 years that could be saving lives much sooner because they can prove themselves much faster. So when that policy can be streamlined and adjusted, then investors see the potential. They see their potential investment having a higher profit margin and having that return come back sooner. And that's why in a space like what we're doing with Neovia, we want to have a proof of concept in a city model first, and then, of course, expand from there. We'll have a sister city in South America, and then maybe eventually one here in Madrid. Who knows what the future potential holds there. But even just starting with one proof of concept, we will see that the streamlined regulation is going to speed up processes. It's going to make more investment come in, but parallel to more money coming in and funding your projects, there's also going to be a reduction of the cost to go through those trials because there won't be as much regulatory red tape to go through. And the regulation that is there is actually there to promote safety and efficacy. We'll have positive regulation and a streamlined way through it with approval processes that happen as trials are happening and are tailored to each therapy and trial that you're trying to do. Because in this space, there are so many different things with genetic editing, with cellular rejuvenation, with stem cells. They all require a different way of looking at it and proving its safety and efficacy. That one blanket definition of that can't be used to cover everything. And that's a big challenge we're running into. So as more funding rolls in and as the cost of trials come down, then we'll finally reach that point where we're 5 to 10 years away, or we're 3 to 5 years away from having a major breakthrough in curing age-related diseases, and ending human suffering as a result of that is actually going to be 3 to 5 years away. as where we are now, we've heard 3 to 5 years, we've heard 5 to 10 years, we've heard 10 to 20 years for the last 40 or 50 years. We need to get to a point where 3 to 5 years means 3 to 5 years on the slow end. We think we could make things happen much, much faster, and that's what we plan on doing. But the major goal is to open up the funding opportunities, the investment opportunities into your scientific community, into the trials you are doing. Again, like I said earlier, because selfishly, I want to live and I want to be healthy. I don't want to grow up older and then die from being sick or just getting old, because we're just dealing with the things we're dealing with now. So how do we move this movement forward to break it down to the most simple thing? Advocate, talk to people. That demand will, through, as I just discussed, hit all the different points where finally the supply will have to be there. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. Great advocates. Does anyone have any questions when it comes to advocacy? Because this is actually a topic that relates to each and every one of us. So, no questions are too small. Oh, yeah. Could we just have a short resume what the question was in English? So maybe the audience, not everyone is Spanish.
Mariana.
I think you were asking about that old-tail question on whether, what happens, do you distribute money first to guns or do they go to feeding? And how do we, and what kind of alliances are we going to make sure to make so that we know that that money's been distributed right? If I can take that question first, I would say until we solve aging, there's always going to be wars. I think there's always going to be death, but once we cure aging, there's going to be a huge cultural shift. We're looking at the biggest paradigm shift we've ever seen as humanity. And unfortunately, people see death like part of a circle. That's not how I feel. That's not what I see. I feel differently, but once we cure death and the diseases of aging, the whole paradigm that we've known so far as humans and culture are completely going to change. So the question we've posed so far and the way we've treated each other so far are going to change, because if you're not just getting rid of 10 years worth of living of a human, you're getting rid of 500 years. So,
yeah, hopefully we're expanding our consciousness and seeing other things worthwhile than what we've seen in the last decade of man hurting man. Yes?
Actually, a Spanish scientist who got the Nobel Prize, Santiago Ramón y Cajal. So he gave classes here, by the way. Santiago Ramón y Cajal lectured here. Our first Nobel Prize in 1906 or something like that. I was not born at the time.
Oh, there we have one.
I think you have to make a ratio between how much money is spent in health and in weapons per year for Washington, D.C. And the ratio probably is going to be 2 minutes of defense expenditure in 1 year is less than what we're spending here.
Yeah, we need the politicians at the table so we can ask that question.
Mariana, since you are organizing the march, the rally in Washington, D.C., what are you going to tell President Trump?
I'm not going to answer that. But I will answer is that the march is focusing on longevity rights. Because we don't want this to be something that can be used against us. We spoke about safety and security before. So one of the biggest focus of the coalition and the march is going to be to really make this about everybody and not just about longevity and immortality, but really about all of us being able to get access to all of this medicine. And we feel that it will be the first door to open, and then all of this will be, because I also have the same concerns as you do. So I'm glad you're putting that out there.
Any more questions? All of you are advocates, so if we would sort of summarize and maybe hand the tool of advocacy to people here, if you could each share, your own sort of nugget on advocacy? How do we create a narrative around longevity? I mean, some say immortality, some say radical life extension, some say health, some say living forever. You know, if we're going to unify this advocacy, if each and every one of you know, did you have like a tagline, and then we can get some inspiration when it comes to longevity or eternal living, flourishing, joy span, whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, to finish, I'm going to be a little bit more general. So my main advice, I cannot avoid to give advices because I'm mother of 2 daughters and 1 son, and I used to do advices. So my main advice is to support science and to pay attention to scientists. It's very important to have critical thinking, talking about longevity, about health, about many other things. We pay attention to people that really don't give advices supported by science data. So this is very important to develop the critical thinking. So this is one of my first advices. The other one is that as a citizen, we can really support companies that support science instead many other things like weapons or whatever. So we should develop also our critical thinking to see which companies we like and we don't. So this is important, and for the companies, I will advise you to use your responsibility to support science, for example, through Apadrina la Ciencia, and as a citizens also. I mean, something that we want to be is to be happy, no? To be healthy and happy. And one of the things that make us very happy is the generosity. So when you find a cause, you find a purpose in your life, and you really support it by a donation or by a collaboration with it, so we are here to have you, you are happy, and finally you are better in life. So please, I hope many of you find Apadrina la Ciencia a good way to really put your donation or do your collaboration to support science that finally is going to impact in all our lives. And also you have the possibility to deduce the taxes because Apadrina la Ciencia got the position of utilidad pública. So please, you are welcome to come to visit us in Apadrina la Ciencia. Thank you.
I'm just going to support her idea. It's the love of life is really what defines the community. We love life so deeply, we really want to extend it. We find it extremely unfair. And I think it's not hard to drive this feeling to everyone. Like, we're really, I think the problem is most people have not heard that this is even possible, honestly. Most people that I talk about it with, and just regular people, most people are supportive of life extension. And I think it's more of a marketing and a media effort. And as soon as everybody realizes life is so valuable, so important, that who wants to kill each other, to have arguments, to have fights, to discuss silly political quarrels all the time on the right and the left. And so we're so sick of it that we have to move past this period. It's really annoying and frustrating that the debates are not more enlightening. You know?
There needs to be a mirroring. The weapons here and health here, and there's a mirroring. Because everybody wants initially what you're saying, but we're living in a world where fear and scarcity is...
But nobody knows what transhumanism is.
Yeah.
On a similar tone, I don't tend to speak to my patients about immortality, but I always try to ask them, like, do you want to die tomorrow? They usually say no. And then it comes like, what makes you think that you will want to die someday if you're at a great health? So I think that for the general society, talking about infinity, immortality, it's just like concepts they can't really grasp.
No, exactly.
But when they put it into the perspective of today, no one wants to die tomorrow. And eventually that means that you don't want to die at some point if you're in great health. And as we're talking about advocacy, and I don't want to extend because I know it's too long, I would love to make a small remark, especially going back to the science part, that we need to do more research on female longevity.
Definitely.
So if longevity has little funding, female longevity has close to none. And women age differently than men.
Exactly.
So as an advocate and having a microphone in my hand, please fund female research, female longevity research.
And to add to that, there is something in the making, the launch of Superwoman, which is going to be dedicated just to that. So I'm really getting all the women I can find to get together and make that happen.
As I said before, we need to keep boosting, developing, and fostering public and private collaboration, because we need a better system that prevents, not just cares, but prevents.
Thank you.
I think we cannot be afraid of spirituality and the divinity of the body, and we need to remind each other of that. I think that when people think of cure and aging, they think you're trying to play God, and I don't see anything wrong with that statement. I think we are, and I think we all here have something in common, and it's that we do all feel the value of human life, of our bodies, and some other people's bodies that we've lost. And so for all of us to not forget why we're doing this, and it really is the celebration of the divinity of the body.
Thank you.
To go back to the original question of immortality versus radical life extension versus longevity, and how do we combine all of that? To me, the common denominator is, do you want to live healthier, longer? Period. If the answer is yes, you're a part of this community. After that, it's a personal choice on the individual level of how much longer do you want.
And I really think, I think that the purpose is also, we need to find purpose and meaning in our own lives and in sort of the life in general. And I think when we start to navigate, whether it's spirituality, divinity, I mean, these concepts are getting much more into the loop now. A few years ago when you spoke about this, it was a bit woo-woo, but this is actually, self-evolvement. We're here for a great adventure called life. Of course, we want to live in joy and happiness, but we also need to be sovereign and start to maybe demand that. And it comes from, the people. And longevity is an amazing, amazing, occurrence that it's happened now, because advocacy has never been stronger, because people are voicing up, the science is there, and I think it's going to, accelerate more and more thanks to people like you. So a round of applause for all of our advocates and leaders. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen and advocates of longevity and pioneers, our final keynote speaker is truly a pioneer herself, both as a leader, how she came into the longevity space, which many times happen because you have a personal issue which she had with her son, but she's a pioneer within gene therapy and one of the boldest voices in the field as well, because she allows also to be provocative, not least as gene therapy, as we know, is not accessible, but she's really traveling the globe around to really make this accessible in certain parts of the world. She's the founder and CEO of BioViva, a driven humanitarian entrepreneur and a leading voice for genetic cures, and she's championing gene therapies as a path to human rejuvenation. And here we can talk about human trials, because she is doing this on herself. Please give it up, if she's with us, Liz Parrish. Hopefully.
Okay, fantastic. It's nice to be here, everyone. And so let me get my slides ready. Hi, Jose, how are you? Awesome. Okay, great. I can share my slides, it looks like, and so we'll get on that. I hope everyone's enjoying the conference. It looks like you guys had a terrific march for the death of death. So fantastic, and congratulations on that. Okay, fantastic. So we're going to talk about the evolution of gene therapy, where we've been and where we are going. As you know, BioViva has had a little bit of a rocky road this year because of what's called hands-off research. Hi! I can see everyone in the audience. Hey everyone, woo! Shake it up, get your body moving. I know it's evening for you, but it's early in the morning for me. You guys all look fantastic. So let me proceed. In hands-off research, what we do is we pay a university to do research, and then sometimes there are things called detractors, and sometimes there are things called missteps in science. And right now we have a paper that's under review for just that. And I imagine the infernos of hell are going to be burning bright in the near future for one side or the other. So we can't talk too much about that today because that's under investigation. But I'll let you know that our company is dedicated to science and science working for humans. We are a translational engine, and that's what we're going to get into today. If science can't translate to humans, then we are all going to die. And I'm going to show you how we have proven that science has already translated and that we can build upon it. But if we are detracted from and science is blocked, that would be the responsibility of the murder of millions of people. And so we also have to watch that side of the aisle. So let's get into an exciting presentation in which I think you can all agree we need to cure aging. So we're going to go back really quick historically into the death records of humans, and this is because I want to show you that science is already working. We have basically elucidated many different scientific advances to extend human lifespan, and these records are evidence of that. So in 1665, we vastly died of infectious disease. And because we took it so seriously, by the year of 1900, we got that infectious disease rate down to almost 50% of the population. And that was because we used science, a technology that's rigorous, that tests whether or not something will work to circumvent, maybe in this case, a death outcome. And this is fantastic because this made it so that we could live longer and healthier. But if you notice this graph, we start to see the expansion of diseases that we didn't have on the original graph, and that is because we started to name aging-associated diseases. So by the year 2010, only 3% of the population is dying of infectious disease. And this is science. This is science showing that already it's working on life extension. So longevity science started way back, probably around the 1800s, and has advanced beautifully since then. So if people say that it is science fiction to extend a lifespan, actually most of the population has already benefited from that. So when we look at old medicine, we looked at symptom management, and we still have a lot of this, mostly in the healthcare system, not so much in medical tourism, but we do what's called symptom management, and we use tools, and we look at herbal remedies and natural things that we can do. And this is really still where diet and exercise lies. It's a powerful technology, and you can see that it got us a long ways. Then as we advanced, we worked into diagnostics. How did we actually diagnose something before it happened instead of waiting for it to happen? And this really opened the realm of regenerative medicine to step in, and that is really the third stage, which is using regenerative medicine to create a cell that stays in homeostasis, that ages as slowly as possible, or maybe even reverses aging. So I'm going to talk about our modalities of how we work, and we work at BioViva in genetics and in gene therapy. So our mission is to find gene therapies that will modulate the aging process and keep the body in homeostasis. How I became a GMO, and why I think you will too, was a long journey that I've had over 12 years in regenerative medicine and 10 years with the company BioViva. And the evidence that we've shown that probably actually working with genetic therapeutics is the best way to move forward for most of the population, because then you can set a lot of your biological aging therapies and forget them, at least for 10 to 15 years. And that's an unimaginably powerful tool. We will probably need other tools alongside this technology, and we'll talk about those as we go. So why I became a GMO is I was working in regenerative medicine for 2 years, and my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2013. So after working in the regenerative medicine space, I thought that once I ended up in the hospital or a loved one did, that this regenerative medicine technology would be available for us, that we would not be fighting diseases with palliative care. But in fact, I was wrong. This type of technology was not translating quickly, not quickly enough for most patients. On the heels of going to a SENS conference later that year to meet the professor of genetics at Harvard, George Church, which eventually joined the company as a founder, I found out that by treating biological aging and treating the genetic basis of biological aging, we could actually expedite cures for these kids. And so my company, BioViva, every gene we have chosen since then will actually treat both ends of the spectrum, so the aging population and the young population, basically taking care of the critical care for the most vulnerable populations on the planet. And why do we need to do that? Because both vulnerable ends of the population drain a lot in resources. So when you're young, you don't have a job, makes sense. Society pays for you to grow up, then you're in your earning stages in which you are profitable in the sense that you're above what it costs to live. And then as you age, unfortunately, you fall back below this line. And this is really critical because many people who are in this age group of around 55 still have dreams. There are still things they want to do, but these estimates in earning versus eating would tell us that your dreams are over and you better brace for the future of really high costs in healthcare. We want to change that. So what does that look like? Let's go back to 1665. Infectious disease, you're going along, you get an infectious disease, you die fast. The middle graph is what happens today. That is the death curve, the slow death curve and decline into end-stage diseases. And what happens is you get a symptom and then we try to recover you with today's medicine, but generally we put you back on the death curve and your health continues to decline, but you continue to consume these drugs that at least keep you alive. The graph on the right we call tomorrow's medicine, but it's already started about 10 years ago when we started. And this is what happens when we look at genetics, the ability to potentially restore the body to a healthy state. I was just at Harvard with David Sinclair a couple days ago, and he has amazing research also going on in gene therapy, some of the things that we do at BioViva as well. And incorporating all of these things looks incredibly promising to maybe deliver on this graph that I'm showing you. So what is gene therapy? With gene therapy today, we use AAV. It's adeno-associated virus. It is what used to be a virus, and it's now attenuated and called a vector. It can no longer get you sick. But what's really great about these vectors is nature has designed them eloquently to deliver to your cells genetic material to the nucleus for long-term expression. So we can take something that used to get you sick and turn it into something that delivers healthy genes that are required for sustained gene expression of youthful bodies. And basically we call that a regain of function and a restoration to healthy and therapeutic benefit of these genes. So what you'll see is it delivers that gene sequence into the nucleus of the cell, and then it's transcribed and it creates a protein. And those proteins are what make you up. So those proteins are very important for the health of your body. They're given by IV, intramuscular injection, intranasal injection, organ delivery directly, and there are some gene therapies that are given topical for children with rare skin disorders. We don't do topical gene therapy at this point, but we do every other type of delivery. Actually, this is an image that was just pulled because it was a beautiful image, but actually that's a lot what gene therapy looks like. It's a clear liquid. I think a lot of people wonder what their injection would look like, and it is a clear liquid, and not very scary, but very wonderful. Now here is where we're going to show the benefit of gene therapy that's already happening. So on the left side, this boy has muscular dystrophy and he's trying to climb stairs. And the first place that follistatin, the gene follistatin that's now often used in medical tourism for an aging population, was in Duchenne's and Becker's muscular dystrophy, and this was one of the patients. This was him 3 months after gene therapy. Now, we're hypothesizing that patients over the age of 70 will also need a secondary gene therapy that we are going to start using with follistatin to increase their muscle mass and strength due to other deleterious effects of biological aging. And so you're going to hear about that soon. But already we have showed a myriad of successes in patients with this gene. Again, according to studies in hemophilia B, with this delivery method, patients 13 years later are still showing expression of gene function. So that's fantastic. So first of all, the area of gene therapy started in fixing underlying genetic problems, and this is where it really went to show its major successes. And what made us realize that it had the propensity to probably treat diseases that are more complex in order. And these are the therapies that are already approved in the gene therapy space. So if you think that this is up and coming technology, it is not. It's already approved by the FDA for 13 therapies. So these are all the therapies that are available now. They come with an enormous price tag because when you treat a small population, you create a very expensive technology. But by treating biological aging, we could actually making these type of therapies just free for young patients and patients who just need to come up to the line of stability with the rest of the population. Preventative medicine is probably the best place for gene therapy. In those conditions that I just showed you, you could consider the gene therapy itself a preventative medicine that keeps those children from having the outcome of those diseases. If we catch patients earlier, we will probably have much more benefit with gene therapy. And so I believe that as this technology is shown safe, it will be used with younger and younger patients. On the longevity side, what we can do today is we can lengthen your telomeres. We have so many patients' data now that shows that we can do that, and that's wonderful. And that includes the shortest telomeres, which are very important to target. We can increase muscle mass, definitely. I did not work out today, so I'm probably not all pumped up, but that is something we can do, and that is a beautiful consequence of follistatin gene therapy. Now, in aging patients who are over a certain age who don't have precursor stem cells, we are still waiting to see how well we can do. Cognitive enhancement, we can accomplish this. I don't want to make any claims here, but when we do alpha-klotho gene therapy, we have seen an average increase in a standard deviation of IQ tests, and that's pretty powerful because that could take people who are really low on the spectrum and make them more functioning, and people who are really high, well, it can make them even more awesome, okay? So we need more of those people. So kidney protection, that is something that we can do with 2 gene therapies that we have. Mitochondrial therapy, we have a therapy that is specifically for that. We are working into 5 new candidates that we will be launching in actually the next 6 months and getting the first human data on. And they all benefit mitochondria as well. Cardiovascular protection is something we can do with one of our gene therapies. Metabolic health, several of our gene therapies target metabolic health. Nerve regeneration is something in the process, and there's a wonderful gene that is associated with rescaffolding. Also, there is evidence that the OSK factors benefit nerve regeneration as well. And then, of course, epigenetic reprogramming, that's been all over the news, and we have our own proprietary form of doing that. Okay, All right. It's fun to be home because I can kind of play around here. So sorry if I've got too much energy for you. So in an ever-changing world, we need to genetically modify to basically survive the future, survive dying of death and disease. And Jose is definitely behind the crusade to make sure that you are aware of our enemies. The environment is also an enemy. Living in extreme conditions is also an enemy. And so we need to work towards that. Enhancing and continual repair is critical for us to get the most out of life. We definitely want to stick with being able to get out and do the things that we love. And I am a huge proponent of gene therapy for that. Integrating technology, Sam Altman was talking about how they're looking for genes now to basically help integrate technology into you, making it so you don't have to maybe lose your devices. Your devices might become part of your body. This is fantastic and exciting. And then, of course, exploration of different environments. We know that going to space causes accelerated aging. We know that the detriments of deep atmospheres also cause damage to our body, and so we want to make sure that we're on top of that and that we don't limit where we can go and who we can go with. So now I'm going to talk about some human data, and all of this will be my data because right now I don't have permission from patients to release their data, but I want to show you what we can do now and what we have seen, not just in my body, but in other people's bodies as well. So years ago, we released a paper on my data. We showed that since my first gene therapy and my second gene therapy, which gave me a little bit of a boost of telomerase reverse transcriptase, this is a gene therapy that lengthens the caps at the ends of the chromosomes. These shortening of these caps are associated with a myriad of disease. As a matter of fact, all the diseases of aging. And critically short telomeres lead to increased risk of genomics instability, which causes cancer. There are a lot of different things that I can tell you, but this would be a talk all on its own. Since my gene therapy is in 2025, my telomere length has lengthened by an average of 5.3 years for every year I've lived. And my telomeres are longer since these results, and I need to get this year's telomere test done, so then we'll have 24 and 25 and then release more information. Very important, short telomeres in your immune system, which are the telomeres that we actually test. Short telomeres were associated with deaths in COVID-19. Number one association was immune senescence. Whether you're young or you're old, you need to have cellular division in the immune cells or they cannot divide to attack an infection. So it goes beyond just chromosomal stability and living longer and certain benefits of that. Also, things like lobsters and certain clams, they may be living as long as they do, which is an extremely long time, hundreds of years, due to having telomerase turned on in every cell. So I am a proponent of this. We have not seen drawbacks or adverse drug events, and we've watched patients for over 5 years. Follistatin, we can increase your muscle mass as long as you have precursor stem cells, and we'll be able to increase your strength even if you don't, and we'll talk about a company that is going to help replace those stem cells anyway. This is my results that were put out. This is my MRI image, and my muscle mass increased and my intramuscular fat went down. Follistatin comes with a bunch of benefits. If you look at the literature review around it, it's kind of crazy. It helps with tissue repair regeneration. It turns down inflammatory markers. We believe that reestablishing the immune system is dependent on turning down these markers, that the things that we used to think actually made your immune system really strong, which was stressors and inflammation, actually keep it from rebuilding your body. And I'm working with a new company that's going to be showing that in human data over the coming year and a half. So this is really important. It may actually even have a protective role, that's follistatin, in prostate and breast cancer. And that's something that we're going to want to watch and see. And of course, increased muscle mass is associated with insulin sensitivity, which is vital to not have type 2 diabetes. Again, we will have growing evidence there. When we talk about brain health, we often talk about alpha-klotho. And one of the things that my company wanted to do, starting in maybe 2016 or 17, after I was treated, is learn how to redose AAV. We're the only company in the world that can do it, that we know of. And we wanted to prove that we were having a therapeutic effect, even with redosing events. So on the left side, you see my alpha-klotho levels. This was after I had already been treated in 2020. But what it shows is that I'm in the 90th percentile for alpha-klotho for my age. And that's fantastic. That means the first gene therapy probably worked. Then we did a redosing protocol, and on the right side, that is an increase to the 95th percentile for alpha-klotho. And since then, I think my score, because we did it again, I just keep doing it. And now it's 1,300 and I think 28. So now I'm, basically hovering in the top area. I don't really want to go over that. We want to get the alpha-klotho in the maximum area. We don't want to take it over what would be natural for a human homeostasis at this point. So I will be working on some other data. Years ago, let's see, this was in 2021, we launched a paper of a safety study with H-TERT and alpha-klotho in patients with dementia. And we saw a benefit. And I actually took this to the US FDA and did a pre-IND on it. And they asked for $8 million worth of animal studies, even though we had human data. So that was at the point that we tipped and we started licensing out to other companies who could use it in the locations they were in, or they had the aptitude and the fortitude to raise the money to get into the US FDA. And I'm happy to tell you we've got two new groups coming on to use this therapy in patients with dementia, one in the US and one in the Bahamas, but we'll talk about some more coming up here. But what happened? Cognitive scores went up and biological age went down. It was not a cure, but it did offer hope for some of these patients, and one patient went from living in assisted living to living on their own. We really want to work this towards a medical cure. These were incredibly low doses. We're hoping with higher doses and the insertion of a third gene that we want to use, we're going to get better results. So what happens if we keep curing mice, but we can't get things to humans? As you know, all of you probably know, I did not get into this industry to do research and development. I got into this industry to help patients, and that's why scientific accuracy is so important for me. We're a different beast. We believe that if you've got good medicine, you'd be using it, and if you're not, we're going to put you to the challenge of getting it up there. I've spent about a third of my time in regulations. I worked in a myriad of zones, one zone that actually approved their regulations last year to use gene and cell therapy, and I will continue to push for new innovative areas to open up for the use and access of these technologies, including the United States. We work with several concierge medicine companies, and these are healthcare companies that basically you're given a special person who handles your dossier, and they help you get access to technology all over the world. This is a Swiss group. They have clinics in Switzerland, and we also work with clinics all over the world with gene and cell technology, and almost anything that is very high value that would be hard to get through a normal system. We also have these 4 licensing partners on top of a couple other ones we've just added. Future Health is in China. They're a fantastic group. They're starting to work with the Chinese government and 92 hospitals to move technologies forward. On the upper right side is Unlimited Bio. They've been working in Honduras, and they treated a Kardashian. Hey, that is really cool. They're a cool group, very cool group. On the bottom left is Integrative Health Systems. They have treated over 300 patients without an adverse drug event. And knock on wood, we're very proud of them, and they're an incredible group of 13 medical doctors and a concierge system that helps with all the pre and post and all the travel arrangements. And on the bottom right is a group I was going to talk about, that's RegenCell. They're working on replacing your stem cells, but not just replacing your stem cells, reprogramming them and adding genetic function to them. And so you're going to hear more about them over the next couple of years, and that is a super benefit because for people over the age of 65, they're down to 5% of their stem cells, and without these stem cells, you cannot regenerate your body. So these are very, very important cells to the body, so they need to be replaced, and if they're reprogrammed first, that's of benefit, and if they have better gene function, even cooler. So I know that we move quickly, but we are an engine for change. We are a humanitarian group of scientists, medical doctors, and business people who believe that we need to spend our time for the betterment of humankind. And so I want to leave you with this quote: "He who rejects change is the architect of decay. The only human institution which rejects progress is the cemetery." I suggest you don't land there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Liz.
We love your presentation, but we have to say goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.